What is going on, guys? It's the Variety Film Brothers. I'm Andrew.
I'm Thomas.
Welcome back to Variety Discussion. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And this is probably the Star Wars movie that I have turned around the most since I was a kid. Because, I grew up with every single movie, right? Except for the sequels and, Rogue One and Solo, obviously. And this was my least favorite one as a kid. And, rewatching it for the first time in a while, I really realized, how much I'd come around on it, because this is a really good movie.
Yeah.
That being said, though, it's not my absolute favorite. We'll get into our rankings for all the Star Wars movies in a video later on, not too later on, relatively soon, but again, not today.
This one is definitely more the calm movies. It's more about the story than it is about the action.
I think that's what I didn't like about it as a kid. A lot of it's very slow paced, but you kind of grow to appreciate that, because it's slow paced, but it doesn't feel boring. Really, I mean, it drags maybe a little bit in the middle, but it's good stuff. It's still entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, there's no dual scene, at least not any good ones. At least.
Yeah, I do have to admit I don't think the choreography from the Luke and Vader duel has really aged very well, especially compared to the prequels. It's still a lot better than Episode 4. It's a big step up from that, because that was
rough.
That wasn't great, but again, I can't give it too much credit at the same time when you have the prequels to compare that to.
Yeah, this movie really goes into the plot than it does with the choreography.
It does. First thing that I have is the practical effects are really good and still hold up. It's not to say all the effects are perfect. A lot of the CGI, both original and inserted in the special edition changes, does not look very good. The holograms, some of them really look rough. There's one particular one of Darth Vader that just looks like they made it in Microsoft Paint or something.
Oh.
I swear to God, it's that bad. But all the practical stuff, I think, is just amazing. Still holds up really, really well. And I also think this is probably the best shot Star Wars movie. I think it has some of the best sets, with Dagobah and Cloud City. Yeah. It just all looks really, really good, especially for 1980. Not that movies looked bad in 1980 or something, but it's aged very well, is the point. So I guess before we get too much further, we'll go on and give our rankings. I still can't really decide if I want to do that at the beginning or the end, but so we'll just awkwardly do it in the middle, I guess. So what do you give this one?
I give it an 82.
82?
Yeah.
I give it an 86. It's always been in that B range, or at least for the last few years, because like I said, as a kid, I didn't really like this one all that much. I mean, for a Star Wars movie, I still loved it like crazy. But this was not really ever one that I hardly went back to. But I really appreciate it now as an adult. And that calm that you were talking about, there's something really, really charming and nice about that calm. It doesn't always have to be doing stuff like crazy. And that's something the sequels really, really mess up on. The sequels is just stuff's got to be happening all the time, and I really, if you watched any of the sequels and then this movie, back to back, it would just be, such a jarring experience,
Is this even Star Wars?
For real, this movie, it really gets it, man, because it's just so, layered, man. Whereas A New Hope is super simple, this one has a lot of layers to it. And I know it's easy to, be desensitized to the whole, Vader being Luke's dad thing, but, that was a really big deal when that first, came out, was, people were hearing that for the first time. That really shook people up, I think. But I think the reason that twist works so well in this movie, as opposed to, later on, when, the whole Palpatine-Rey, twist thing works, is because, in A New Hope, Obi-Wan tells Luke, about his father, and, that whole story. So there's already been some, established, background with Luke. He already knows a little bit about his father. He already thinks he's dead, has all this information, and then it's revealed, bam, so it's really not just one reveal. It's kind of 2 or 3 at the same time. And I think that really, again, those layers, with this movie, it really, really helps it to be impactful.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, though, Obi-Wan didn't give the best description of how Anakin died.
No, it really kind of ages in a weird way, that conversation does. I don't know if we talked about that in our review for A New Hope, but, that conversation ages in a bit of a weird way, but I think it still works well enough. But this movie, I think another reason that it's most people's favorite Star Wars movie is because it has so many, iconic scenes, lines, and, the scores as well. There's so much stuff from this movie that, even non-Star Wars fans really know about. You know, like pretty much every line Yoda says has
Yeah.
been like memed.
Yeah.
And you know, in the scores as well, you've got the Imperial March. Like everybody knows what the Imperial March is. Like that is big. Going back to Yoda, I think the puppet works so much better than the CGI model from the prequels, and that's coming from someone who actually like doesn't mind it. But what do you think?
I kind of like the CGI better.
You prefer the CGI?
I don't like it whenever he flips a lot. I don't like how he flips a lot with the CGI one.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I don't really like the way that Yoda acts in this one either.
Really, like his personality or like his movements?
Like his personality.
How so?
Like he interrupts like Luke's like private space and like his personal stuff, and it's just like,
Oh, you mean like at the very beginning?
yeah.
I think he was trying to be like extra annoying to like see like how easy is it to just piss off this kid?
Yeah.
Like how much anger do I really have to worry about? Because I mean, Anakin was a very angry boy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he might have kind of been trying to test the waters a little bit by like getting into his stuff. But I think he actually kind of has a bit of a character arc, and like a lot of people will rag on Attack of the Clones for Yoda using a lightsaber, and you know, because like it's so different from the Yoda we see in this movie. And I actually think that's the result of like character development. I think the Yoda in the prequels was like so used to like, you know, the old way of doing things and like just focusing a lot on like lightsaber combat and maybe not so much in the Force. And you know, but throughout his time on Dagobah, I think he's really like come into his own, and like now he's realized, you know, like how he tells Luke, you know, you don't always need your weapons, and I think there's like a progression there, and I think a lot of people don't really see that. I think they're just, like I said, really quick to bag on Attack of the Clones for that, but I think that movie and this movie, like, are actually, I think it's actually worked to like progress Yoda's character and show like, okay, like this is the real Yoda. Like you're kind of right. Like this is the real Yoda, and he was kind of just like doing what he thought was best back in the prequel days, you know? I feel like it might have actually been originally intended for Yoda to have never had a lightsaber, and maybe just been like a Force studying Jedi or something like that. And that's another thing that's really interesting to think about, like watching the originals again, is like, you know, like I grew up with the prequels and the originals, so for a long time I really saw them as like just one cohesive story. And like as I grew up, I kind of saw a few problems, like a few things that maybe don't add up super well. One big one in Return of the Jedi, so we'll get to that in the next video. I mean, for the most part, it works, but like, I do think it's really interesting to see like where people thought the prequels would go based on these movies. You know what I mean? Like, a really big like sort of complaint that like I used to not really understand, but now I get, is that like the prequels were too technologically advanced. You know, like it looked like we went forward in time almost instead of back. Like I get that, but like rewatching this movie made me think about more story elements like that. Like Luke has this line that I think is really weird, where he says when he arrives on Dagobah, and he says this place is like really familiar to him. That's really interesting. I wonder if maybe Lucas had a plan where maybe like baby Luke was on Dagobah for a little bit. You know, like I get why people were super excited for these prequels now, because I think they really had a long time to analyze little lines like that, and when it just didn't happen to play out that way, I could see where they'd be a little, maybe not so much disappointed, but maybe confused. And again, that's coming from someone who also really likes the prequels and sees them as 100% legitimate Star Wars. So, but that's kind of interesting to just think about, like, in another timeline, in another universe, what could have been, you know what I mean? Yeah. The special edition changes for this movie are so much better than the last movie's special edition changes. Like, the last movie you had the that big animal walk in front of the whole shot for like 5 or 6 seconds. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so that wasn't a great change. But in this movie, you've got the new Wampa, which looks so much better than the old one. Like, oh my god, that old one looked so bad. Like, oh my god. As well as Ian McDiarmid, who obviously plays the Emperor in the next movie, as well as the prequels, and, well, a bunch of stuff at this point. You know, he was also inserted in as the Emperor in the place of whoever did it the first time.
Yeah.
The name totally escapes me, but it did not look great. I'm just going to be totally honest. That did not look great. So again, another really good change there. And really, I don't think anyone actually complains about the special edition changes in this movie that much. I think it's mainly the first one, so I don't think I'm gonna get like too much heat for that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just something that people should maybe acknowledge a little bit more. Like, maybe the special edition changes weren't all that super bad.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that contributes to like this also still not being my favorite Star Wars movie is that there's sort of a small kind of small thing, I guess. It also feels big at the same time, that I have a problem with, and that is we don't really know how long Luke trains for, so I don't really know like what I should be expecting him to be able to do against Darth Vader. When he goes off and decides to fight him and not finish his training yet. Like, has it been a week? Is he like super inexperienced? Has it been like a couple months? I mean, like, because that's the most I could see it being is like a couple months, but like that also has to be the same amount of time that like Han and Leia are being held in Cloud City. So like again, how long can that realistically go on for without like really affecting the narrative? You know what I mean? So I wish there would have been at least a couple throwaway lines. Maybe there's something and I just totally missed it. But I mean, I've seen this movie like 300 times, so I must have missed it a lot somehow. But I think that would have really helped to just have a bit of a sense of like a time frame in this movie, since we do have the training and Luke and not Luke and Han and Leia being held hostage and all that. So I think that would have maybe helped me to push it up on my list a little bit more.
Also, a question about the carbonized
Oh, the carbonite freezing chamber.
Yeah, his mouth was opened. So you would think like some of the thing would go into like his lungs.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how that works because like I guess it would have to get in through his lungs to freeze all of him, or else he would like. I don't know. The more I think about it, I guess the more I think about it, the more it just like totally makes me trip out. So I try to just not think about that anymore. But like as a kid, I really tried to like pin down like man, what would happen if I just like stuck myself in the freezer? You know what I mean? But the only other little negative that I have, and this one is a lot smaller, is that the like the space slug thing that they fly into for a little bit, it straight up looks like a hand puppet. Like it really looks like this dude would just, yeah, like it's very distracting, and I honestly kind of wish they would have either like just put more detail on it, or like maybe even went over it in CGI. I know that would make a lot of people mad because I've actually never heard anybody else complain about this, so this must just be a weird me thing. But like, I would have done something with that, dude.
Yeah, just like, hey, what did you get paid for?
Yeah, I mean, a paycheck is a paycheck, so I really don't feel the need to defend it or like speak too highly about it because I mean, like we said, it's very good, but like everybody like loves this movie. Like I hear so many people like that really say that this is like easily the best Star Wars movie and like none of the other ones even come close, and I'm like, no, you're exaggerating a little bit, you know what I mean? Like I get it is good, but like
it's not top
it's
episode 3.
It's really I don't want to give our whole list yet, but like it's gonna make some people mad, dude.
Yeah.
Some people are not gonna like our lists. Like anytime I've seen a Star Wars ranking list on like Facebook or something that doesn't have Empire Strikes Back at number 1, it gets so much hate. So I'm kind of having to mentally prepare myself for that. But, back to just this video, just this movie. It's very good. Obviously, watch it. If somehow you have not seen this movie yet, I guarantee, like, really, I guess you don't even have to, because, like, society as a whole, like, quotes this movie. So many other movies quote the I'm your father thing. Like, everybody basically knows this movie, even if you haven't seen it. But if you haven't seen it, please watch it. Go culture yourself. Because it is just, it's so good, and you'll probably end up having it as your number 1 favorite Star Wars movie too, just going off like statistics and dumb things like that. I think that's going to wrap us up. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't have anything to say.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video, especially if you've made it this far. Be sure to leave a like and comment down below if you enjoyed this movie or this review, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Peace!